Hello and welcome to this Car Pod.
I'm Kennan.
I'm Filippo.
And let's get into it. The news, starting with Jennings. Gene Jennings passed away a couple days ago. Gene Jennings had enormous roles at auto magazines throughout the 1980s, 90s, and specifically at Automobile Magazine, where she was the editor-in-chief for many years. And she was like a legend in the automotive journalism space. And so everybody's kind of paying tribute to her. I have a Gene Jennings story that I would like to share. Gene Jennings is responsible for a lot of the beginnings of my illustrious career. In 2009, I car spotted. That was like my thing.
2009 and 2024.
To this day. But I sent a letter to Automobile Magazine in 2009 telling them, hey, I do this car spotting thing. Maybe this is something you want to write an article about. And I only sent it to Automobile because Gene Jennings had the foresight of making Automobile more of a lifestyle mag than like a instrumented test specific, things magazine, which obviously now they're all going in that direction. And she called me. I was 21 and she called me. And I still remember, for some reason I was in New York City when she came. I was in Central Park, and it was the winter, and I got her call, and she was like, "Yeah, this sounds fun, and we'll send a writer and a photographer to cover it, and we'll do an article about it." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna be an automobile! It was the coolest thing in the world." I mean, the magazines are not as big of a deal now, but they really were. I mean, that was the cool for a 21-year-old kid who grew up reading every car magazine, the coolest thing in the world. And I'm talking to Gene Jennings, right? So they did, and I was featured in the July 2009 issue of Automobile Magazine for car spotting. And in fact, it was the cover. It was one of the cover stories.
Wow.
And I have like 50 copies of it still. And there's pictures of me in the magazine and driving around Atlanta, taking pictures of Lamborghinis. So that magazine was purchased by a guy who then later kind of became my mentor and started me off in car journalism. And I kind of can trace all that back to that article. Years later, I bumped into Gene Jennings at the Detroit Auto Show. And I said to her, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but this was then I told her the story, and she didn't remember. It was years before, but she was like, oh, I'm so glad we did that, and that's so wonderful. And she was very nice to me. And so I only met her twice, but she had a huge direct relationship on, where I am today and the beginnings of my career.
That's such a cool butterfly effect story. Yeah. That's really neat. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Right. It's like minor interactions, but like a pretty big actual.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. How cool.
Gene Jennings.
Thank you, Gene
I think
Jennings.
in a lot of ways, for a lot of people of our generation, she created the car journalist role that I think we all at some point growing up wanted to be. We want to be that because of Gene Jennings'
And she was insane. And one of the cool, in a great way, because Automobile Magazine used to do these cool tests. I'll never forget when she did coast to coast in a Bugatti Veyron. That was the front cover of the magazine. Well, the coast turned out to be the east coast of Florida to the west coast. And she did it with Hurley Haywood, I think, if I remember. I can't, this is years ago. But they would do weird things like that. And as a result, of the four magazines, Road and Track, Car and Driver, Motor Trend, and then Automobile, I always preferred Automobile. I thought they just had the coolest content, the coolest lifestyle, weird storytelling kind of stuff. And they employed Ezra Dyer for a while. He was one of the greatest writers. And I just thought it was the best. And she's hugely responsible for that. But personally also responsible for real success in my life. Gene Jennings.
I love it. That's what a great story.
It is. It's an interesting story. I think about it a lot.
Indeed.
Next news story today, Carrera GT.
Also something you think a lot
lap
about.
time. Think about it all the time. In fact, I sent my Carrera GT still at my dealership getting serviced, and I sent them this angry text get me the car back. And I think it came from because I watched the lap time.
Yeah.
It's I want to drive this thing.
I got a lap of my own to set.
Carrera GT lap time. So here's the deal. Porsche developed a new tire for the Carrera GT. We're getting the Carrera GTs are all being recalled right now for suspension componentry, and Porsche is putting on new tires because tires have kind of always been one of the stories of this car. Yeah. The tires are aging out. The car is dangerous with the old tires, so they say. So Porsche is giving everybody new tires. Now, Porsche specifically developed a new tire for the Carrera GT, a new type of Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tire. And the car with the new tires went around Nurburgring and did 712, 69 hundredths, thousandths, millionths. Nobody knows or cares. The result of this, the car, now this is just a tire change.
Yep.
Sport Auto did this test, which is a German publication. They beat their previous time with the original tires set back when the car was new by 20 seconds.
Wow.
Just with tires. And this is in my opinion, the really important one, This is faster than the factory 918 Spider lap time around Nurburgring.
Wow. How much faster is it than the factory Carrera GT lap time?
Porsche, I don't think did one, but all of the Carrera GT lap times were between 18 and 20 seconds slower than what the current 16 and 20 seconds slower. Man. So just tires. Now, I have also upgraded my suspension, and the general feeling in the Carrera GT community is that you have to upgrade your suspension. Everyone who drives the car has done it. And if they upgraded the suspension, I can't imagine how many more seconds it would pull off. You start to wonder if it would be around that 7-minute mark, which is where some really serious cars are. But regardless, it's faster than 918 Spider, proving something we've all already known. It's better than 918 Spider.
Yeah. But this opens, in my opinion, the more interest. I mean, it's a very interesting thing for you specifically, since you own one. But I think it opens the door for more tests of older cars with modern rubber, because tire technology has changed a lot since, I mean, even in the last 20 years. So
I agree.
I am kind of curious.
I would argue that because this car had these specially developed there is modern rubbers available for old cars. But Porsche developed this tire and is now mandating that people put the tire on the car. I would argue two things. Number one, this is how fast the car is around Nurburgring, because that's the factory tire
Porsche's
and the
providing it to every owner.
And number two, okay, I'll see what a Ferrari F50 does on a modern rubber, but that's not we can do all sorts of modifications. But this is a factory thing.
I don't really think that tires are a mod necessarily. I don't consider them.
You want slicks? You want to start throwing slicks on cars and go around Nurburgring? Then you got yourself a problem.
Slicks do become different. That's a different story.
Like somebody that owns a Carrera GT.
Yeah, wants it to stay there. And, maybe they refresh the tires to the 918 and give it specific tires.
Maybe they should. They won't, I bet, because that's automatic hybrid stuff. And this is real shit. So.
Are we talking about this on the podcast because you will sell it as soon as you get it back from service? Now that there's more hype.
I can't wait to drive it again, especially on the new tires.
What time do you think you could do?
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
This was a Porsche test driver, by the way, who did this at 7:12:69.
It's an amazing lap to watch, by the way, if you haven't gone and seen it.
I think I could do, 7:14? I think I would do 10 minutes. I watched the lap. I watched the lap, the whole thing.
How many times?
Two things really hit me about this lap.
Yeah.
Number one, he is always either full throttle or full brakes without exception.
That is how you drive. Well,
it's easier said than done when you're driving somebody else's $1 million car. He is always full throttle or full brakes without exception. Very interesting to watch. Well, he just had no fear.
Right. Well, that's the thing about race car drivers. They don't. That's why they get paid the big bucks to do it. If they stuff it, they stuff it. But like, we're gonna do this.
Yep.
Commitment.
And that hit me watching the lap. And also, it's kind of funny because this is just for sport. It's not, there's no professional aspect, but he just went for it. It was also very interesting. If you watch the lap, about 6:55 into the lap, it's a 7:12 lap, he almost loses it. And that is interesting to me because Nürburgring is incredibly long. If you want to drive and set a real time, you got to be chill with the fact that at 6:55, after all the work you've done, you might lose it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have to drive in a way that might be possible. Like, you can't be like, oh, I've done 6.5 amazing minutes, so I'm just going to chill the last minute, which is what you'd want to do mentally. You got to take every minute of this track as real. And I'm watching it I can't believe he hits 180 miles an hour, 300 kilometers. And on the slowdown from that, he almost loses it as he's downshifting. The car gets... I'm sure he was in control, but I would have lost it. and you can tell clearly the car is moving a little.
Yeah. That's dancing. Over 7 minutes of pure concentration. You're not in a normal shorter track. You're 7 minutes. You're repeating a lap many times. Here, it's something new. Yeah, for a full 7 minutes.
Yeah,
and I have to say,
it's hard.
Having watched it, also his shift points are so perfect. Incredible. It's like he knew. It's like he had a list in his mind, just remembered exactly what number gear he had to be in. It's just it's just
amazing.
That's what.
And remember, this is without rev matching. This is without PDK.
This is real driving.
This adds another element to what a 918 Spider drive would be, where you can probably leave it in automatic. They probably shift, but even then, as opposed to
actually moving your leg.
It's real.
I know. No, it's very impressive. That's real race car. It's real racecraft.
It really is. It really is. And that
you're racing the clock.
You're racing the clock, but it really was a masterclass in how you have to do this. It's been a while since I've watched a full Nürburgring lap in car. It is quite something.
Well, I think you have the perspective of having driven one and you own one, and it's you can imagine more of what it's like than watching a Pagani whatever go around the track.
Nonetheless, I'm sitting there like, wow, this is what a professional. This is the difference between me and a professional, and it ain't a small difference.
No.
Like it is real. And I drive my car hard, and I can do great downshifts. It's taken a long time to figure it out, but
not like that.
He's on a and I can't. He's driving the car so hard. It's almost like he's had years of experience in it, but you presume he hasn't. He probably just showed up and did a couple of laps.
Yeah. Right. You know? That's the thing. That's why they're professionals.
This is 15 seconds slower than the Mustang GTD we were talking about a week or two ago.
It's wild.
Which is the fastest American car ever in Nurburgring and is meant for that purpose.
By the way,
this is 20 years old.
Should point out also, this is the second fastest manual transmission car ever to go on the Nurburgring. ACR Viper. Which, remember, had tire failure on the third lap. They had to bail.
But hey, man.
No tire failure here.
Imagine how scary that is to do. If this car, which is designed for this purpose, like the Viper is a sports car, but like, you know, it's probably a bigger handful.
That would be an interesting lap to watch on the inside.
Yeah. It shows how impressive
go back and find
just amazing all around. Yeah. Amazing that they did it. And I truly wonder, with good suspension, at that point, obviously you're going away from my whole claim about its manufacturer provided tires. But I do wonder like where it could go. But then you start wondering, okay, well, where could F50 go? Where could McLaren F1 go? Where could F40 go? If you were willing to change out some wearables like suspension.
To be honest with you, a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Just a huge list. Even beyond the supercars. Like, what does an E46 M3 do with Cup 2s on it? Like,
it makes you wonder, though. It kind of neutralizes some of all these great, like, 918 Spider is so much faster. Well, only because there's some modernized stuff that actually you could fix pretty easily. And then it's like, okay, well, if they're the same fast, wouldn't you rather have the one with the V10 and the manual?
Yes.
You know which car is not faster? The Countach.
Yeah, there's not much fixing that.
What if anybody's ever done a timed Countach lap?
Oh man, if it made it, which is a big, and they didn't
7 minutes of like hard driving
caning
Countach
a
would
Countach.
be
I mean, 7 minutes would be generous. It's gonna be like 8.5. Yeah, exactly.
All right, give us the next. That's the best news story of the week, the month, the year. Give us the next news story. Filippo, I'm sure
Honda
you want to talk
and Nissan,
about this.
there have been a lot of reports that they are talking about a merger. Or other partnership. They're kind of vague about this. They haven't really started the talks. They should apparently be entering into a memorandum of understanding this week, next week, to really begin the merger talks.
Crazy.
We talked a while ago about how Nissan had, per some reports, a year or so of being around before they go bankrupt.
Yeah.
This is their solution, hopefully, for them. It would create the third largest manufacturer behind Volkswagen Group and Toyota Group.
Yeah.
It would also include Mitsubishi because Nissan owns like 24% of Mitsubishi. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of inevitable. Like there's got to be some consolidation. There's a lot of manufacturers. There's a lot of pressure from Tesla and other startup brands and Chinese brands, certainly, that have seemingly unlimited development capital.
And protectionist.
So you got to. It's not that surprising that
I agree.
They will consolidate, as FCA did, by the way, as Volkswagen Group.
We were talking last week about how there's too many brands. We're trying to figure out where Alfa Romeo and Maserati go. Here's a good example of if some of these companies want to survive. It's not just brands; it's manufacturers. If some of these companies want to survive, this kind of stuff's going to be inevitable. I noticed Nissan stock price was up 23% yesterday. Honda's was down 5%.
Tells you a lot.
Is not viewed as
that's exactly what I think. What does Honda have to gain?
Scale.
I just pure scale. Yeah,
I think it's just scale. I do think it's interesting that Nissan is going down this road after the Renault thing, which they did and then fought so hard against and tried to get out of it, and then did successfully get out of it. Now they're heading back in.
They don't have a choice.
Well,
clearly, right? Like they just don't have a choice but to find someone to be acquired, sell a lot of their.
You would have to assume this would be tremendously advantageous for Honda financially, otherwise they wouldn't consider it. They're probably in much better shape.
I'd be a little surprised if these merger talks end up in anything.
Oh, I don't know if they're announcing it or leaking it, but it's become very widespread. It was the front page of the Wall Street Journal yesterday.
Yep.
If
pretty strategic.
Then you got to assume that they're more than just.
But I'd be a little surprised. I mean, Honda very much wants and has already been partnered with Nissan on EV technology because Honda has very little of their own. That's probably their hope from some of that. Scale is certainly their hope for some of that, but
it is interesting to see how far some of these legacy automakers are finding themselves behind in EVs. Toyota claims they've done it intentionally, but China has very quickly, within 3 years, gone from like they are buying Western cars, they're buying gas-powered cars to like all EVs, all Chinese, and they have the benefit of the protectionist Chinese government. These guys, if you lose the Chinese market, you're in a and they have and will.
They have 100%.
You're in a really tough shape. Yeah, you got to figure out something else.
And it's not just a Chinese market. Here in the US, we don't see Chinese cars, except for Chinese-built Volvos. But outside of that, you do. We were looking at Mexican market cars that were in San Diego yesterday, and there were a lot of Chinese cars. So every other market outside of the US, the Chinese
These
manufacturers
guys have
have infiltrated and they're scared. Yeah.
Especially because the Chinese government is providing them with enormous incentives and benefits to be successful. And these old guys, not only are they not getting that, but they're behind in their technology. Yeah. It's an interesting situation.
Now, merger's not easy.
Merger's not easy to take forever. In fact, I sit here and wonder, is it really beneficial to get a larger, less dynamic company? Like, hasn't Tesla's success been largely predicated on the fact that they're like svelte and quick and can make quick changes and do stuff? And here we want to combine these two like giant dinosaur companies.
And like, what do you do? Do you keep the Nissan brand and then Infiniti brand and then the Datsun sub brand and then Mitsubishi, because that exists in other markets? Like, what do you do with that merger? I think you want to do a lot of technology sharing, kind of like Stellantis has done.
It's got to be
not very successful.
Battery development, and I mean, it's got to be all EVs. It's got to be just focus all on EVs.
It'll be interesting to see.
Meanwhile, this market is rejecting EVs.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product. It's called pre-alcohol. That's right, pre-alcohol. Although Doug merely likes a glass of cold water, I like an old-fashioned when we're out to dinner on Friday night with our friends. But as car enthusiasts, one of our favorite activities is to wake up at the crack of dawn on the weekend and go hang out with our car friends at Cars and Coffee. This often means that drinking the night before isn't really on the table. We, as car enthusiasts, have to choose between a fun night out or a fun morning with cars and friends. This product is a game changer to allow for both. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Just remember to take pre-alcohol as your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I enjoy ZBiotics as my first drink on Friday night before dinner, and I'm still able to arrive first to Cars and Coffee the next day. Go to zbiotics.com/cars to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use CARS at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/cars and use the code CARS at checkout for 15% off.
Our next news story, go to the Lambo.
Yeah, let's go.
What that is.
Lambo.
Yes, so Lamborghini has announced, unsurprisingly, that they are pushing back their EV production until 2029. Now, they debuted a car, their EV concept, that's supposed to come out in 2028. However, they're like, maybe not.
When do you think it'll actually come out?
This is, when I think Lamborghini, this is precisely what I think. Something that's spitting flames and looks nuts.
Spitting flames in a tunnel.
An EV is just antithetical to everything they stand for. You want noise and passion, and you want it to have like machine guns that come out of the hood. Like, it's insane.
You could do it in an EV, and then you can still have fire.
I got to tell you,
not exciting.
I'm supportive of EVs. This news story, I'm just like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Lamborghini's like, yup.
You know, I was ready to kind of start figuring out how to make the transition and all that. All these companies were doing it. They're all pushing back, and I think that's probably for the better for the consumer. And by the way, I'm referring specifically to high performance sports car, exotic.
Yes,
I think that I'm driving this Macan EV right now. Yeah. That car is great, and it's better than the gas one. Yeah. And for how most people use it, they should get an electric one, right?
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
When I want a sports car, I want an experience, and an engine is important to that. And so it's not a surprise that they're doing this, but it is notable. I mean, that's a big sports car manufacturer, an important sports car manufacturer that continues to grow in importance, saying no.
These companies have to be looking at the Pininfarina Battista and the Rimac Nevera, which have not been selling, and which have been getting slaughtered on the used market. Plus, they have to be looking at cars like the SF90, where they're getting slaughtered on the used market, whereas 458 Speciales are double. They got to be looking at that and saying, okay, it's not just a couple of enthusiasts. Yeah. The market is speaking.
Definitely. And, Mate Rimans said that himself, like that people just don't want the electric stuff for their sports cars. If you're going to spend that kind of money to have an experience. But I agree. Daily stuff, EVs, no problem.
No problem. Whatever. Who cares? Sports car, traffic is traffic. Whether
traffic is traffic.
Right. Like we'd rather plug it in because then it doesn't emit and it doesn't cost money. But like this.
Do you think that once they eventually go EV, the like exhaust manufacturer like Gantani and FI will make just like flamethrowers for the back? there won't be exhaust. They got to do something.
Dude, I got to be honest with you. the pushbacks on timeline make me wonder when they will go EV. Like we're talking 29 now. Okay, that's 5 years. I'm only thinking about this from a self-interested perspective. Okay, I'll be 41, 42. I mean, can we make this last until I'm out of the situation? You know what I mean?
You just got to get another 50, 60 years in there total, and you're good.
I'm good. Right.
Yep.
It's not unlikely.
Yeah, you do wonder what the exhaust manufacturers will do, but you also wonder if they'll never have to face it.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Sincerely mean that.
For sports, I think we'll see. This will be an interesting thing to think back on 20 years from now. But I am curious.
20 years from now, it'll be settled. And it'll be like, I wonder, and I'm curious.
We'll know the direction. That's what's so exciting about right now, because we don't really know which direction it's going to go. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm hoping that V12 that spit flames stay around.
Now, the Temeriari, John Temerian.
The John Temerian.
Is that's a plug-in hybrid?
Yes.
V8.
I believe that's right. Yes, V8.
Okay. I mean, it's not as bad as... It's not a V10 like it's a
hybrid is
all that really matters. I agree. I think that all that really matters with that is that you have the sound in some capacity and you have that excitement.
I agree generally, although we have SF90 values kind of are showing me at least that there is less of an interest on the used market. There's less of an interest in the plug-in stuff. Meanwhile, the big engine cars still seem to be
doing is doing okay.
What's doing okay?
The 296 is secondary market.
And Revuelto is doing tremendously well, which I assume is hybrid in some components.
I can't believe the number they've delivered. But I do think that
getting big money.
I think the SF90 was a big concern because Ferrari really shot themselves in the foot with how they did not support the LaFerrari. At our own Ferrari dealer in San Diego, there were 3 of them in for service. I suspect all for $300,000 batteries that Ferrari doesn't support.
P1, there's battery
P1,
issues. I don't know how much I'm allowed to disclose, but maybe Filippo could take it from here.
Yeah, I really carefully watched the P1. You had an Aston Martin Valkyrie review that came out this week. And you had a great line in that about how much more of an experience it is than the Pininfarina Battista that you drove a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's notable.
Yeah. It's an experience even just watching it. It's like I would.
That review.
It's just like especially how the camera vibrates. It's like
I was astonished at the response to that video. People were really into it, and I think that is sort of gives you eyesight into how people feel about crazy gas-powered hyper supercar type things in general. Like that's still what gets emotion going for people.
I would rather have, I've said many times, I'd rather have a slow car that makes me feel like I'm going fast than an actually fast car.
I think about 993s all the time. It's just the feel of it is great.
Mm-hmm.
And Porsche's like, well, PDK. I don't care.
That's why Kennan wants a Viper.
Yeah,
you feel.
I know for that reason.
Viper's a field car. All right, give us the next news story. I'm so happy for Lamborghini.
All right,
and the rest of the world.
Yes. So Ferrari has announced that they are going to be the engine supplier for the Cadillac Formula One team in 2026. Now, the interesting thing about that announcement is that Cadillac has not been approved by the FIA to compete in Formula One in 2026 yet. Not yet.
What does that
They're
mean?
Still in the process.
They bought the team. Like, what does that mean?
You have to go through. It's a very arduous process to go through approval from the FIA to make sure you have the facilities to produce such a car that can do a whole bunch of other stuff, and it gets very political, as you can imagine.
Can I ask a lot of questions? My assumption. Okay, I see that. I don't know anything about Formula One. I see the car. Okay, on the track. They call it a track.
Very simple. Well, some are tracks, some are street circuits, but we'll move on.
The car says Aston Martin. My assumption is that Aston Martin makes the body, the engine, the steering wheel.
Not always. So there are a number of manufacturers, Ferrari and Mercedes-Benz, that come to mind immediately, that supply engines to other teams. So you can buy an engine and a gearbox, which is what Ferrari says they're going to supply, from another manufacturer and put it in your own car.
Is it not antithetical to the whole Cadillac is going to compete, like carrying the torch for America in Formula One,
they're going to have
except the entire powertrain. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want Cadillac to have a Cadillac. I want a Blackwing V8, and I don't know what the rules are.
Well, that won't happen, but as much as I wish that would happen, that will not.
I don't understand. Why? So Cadillac wants to be in the F1 so badly that they are going to have the engine built by another manufacturer?
I mean, Red Bull has used a number of engines.
Red Bull doesn't make
Honda,
cars.
they then bought Honda's engines and build them in-house. I mean, this has happened with a lot of manufacturers.
I know, but it's annoying to me. I wanted Cadillac to be ground up. I wanted Mario Andretti in there wrenching on the engines himself. I wanted Bob Lutz or his ghost, I'm not sure, to be building engines in Detroit.
The reality of that is that it is incredibly expensive. And GM has come out and said they will make a Formula One engine. They will get there. But to get off the ground and get things moving, Ferrari has agreed to be the
Why not just wait to launch so you've done it?
You know what this is?
Because if they want to get it in the sport, now is the time to capitalize. It's very popular in America to be in Formula One. This is a real American manufacturer. We had Haas F1, which ties to Gene Haas, who does a lot of racing in America. Sure. But this is GM.
Do you think that GM and Mary Barra is worried that Cadillac will have closed as a brand by the time they actually start developing their own engine?
Cadillac's real, dude. Cadillac's real. They got the XT6
and the Vistic.
It's Vistique, I think. Okay, so they're going to go racing. Cadillac. When is this going to happen? 26.
They're saying 2026. Yeah, and Ferrari's made it very clear that it is contingent on Cadillac being approved to be in the sport. But yeah, 2026 is when we should see that on the grid.
This is the Honda prologue of Formula One.
It is.
They know they're going to do better things later, but they're just getting started.
Hey man, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And if
why
the
not
car
start
looks
with
like
Ferrari?
that, I'm super into it. Who's going to sponsor this thing? Can I?
If you have enough money to do it, I suppose you could.
Cost to have a decal on right there.
You know what I mean? Well, in highly visible spots on television, a ton, but there are spots on a Formula One car that are a lot less expensive than you might think.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
what can I get for $8,000?
Something
really small. It would be great to have a tiny tiny noodle.
I have decided that if not a Formula One fan, never been a Formula One fan, I have decided that I am going to cheer on Cadillac in Formula One. I'm going to cheer on the American brand.
If I got you to watch Formula One for even one season, I would be so happy.
Well, now it's relevant to me. Before it was a bunch of Europeans out there doing stuff. I don't know what's going on.
Well, 2026 is a big deal next year because there's a huge regulation change that comes that year. So it will shake up the grid, and we'll see what's going to go.
You know what they should do for regulations? Have no regulations. That's the race series that I want.
Fan car.
The problem is then they have self-adjusting suspension, and the car kind of drives it. If there were no regulations, they probably would. If manufacturers want to get rid of drivers altogether and let the cars drive themselves.
That seems not fun.
I would watch
precisely that they tried this recently with AI driven it was a disaster. I don't even think the cars completed a lap. I don't remember exactly what circuit it was at, but they attempted this and it was
it's
funny
as AI.
They could do it.
I know
it's a single track. But what's the fun in that?
Exactly.
It's a sport.
Fellow will have this figured out within a couple of days.
I've said many times, you root for the driver and the team. That's what you want to see win.
At that point, just
see
put a track in the ground and just have it follow that.
Or have the whole thing be virtual. Why even run the race?
Well, they do that. They do, and that is the most boring thing in the world to watch. But yeah,
they do computer game racing.
Yeah, they do esports not for Formula One, but
at any time.
Let's go.
Game racing.
In theory, we will have a.
It was so great. Brief story. So Max Verstappen was taking part. They did a version of that for Le Mans for 24 hours. You're going to drive digitally in Formula One, and Max Verstappen, who just sits and does this all day. He just loves simulators. Took part in it, but they had so many glitches and when the system would glitch, it would send you back to the pits. So he'd be around a lap and then all of a sudden be in the pits and he'd be like, guys. And eventually he got so fed up with it, he was like, I'm done. That's enough. I've had enough of it. And he was 10 hours into it. He was like, I'm finished. This is ridiculous and I'm done. The wild stuff.
All right, let's move on to talking about cars. We got to talk about cars. Now, we generally talk about cars on the podcast, but for some reason, there's a segment called Talk Cars where we talk about cars.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the first thing I want to talk about. I didn't send you the picture, but I can describe it. I damaged a press car yesterday.
Oh, no.
For the first time. Not the first time. I've done this many times. No, I've actually only done it 3 or 4 times.
And been accused of it a few other times.
And then been accused. I don't even want to get into the McLaren incident. Been accused of it a few other times.
Yep.
But
what'd you do? Hit a mailbox? Hit a house? Hit a wall?
I lightly curbed the wheel on a Maybach. Now, this is the biggest damage. I've never crashed a press car. I've never damaged a press car. I've never hit anyone with a press car. I've never hit anything with a press car. I've never been in an accident.
You hit a curb.
Never seriously damaged a press car.
Never any real damage. Okay. But I've curbed 2 or 3 wheels, and then I scratched the roof of a Subaru BRZ once. And that's it. That's
how
I had there was something I had on it, and I guess I didn't lift it up. I pulled it off, and I was astonished that it scratched, but we can have a discussion about Subaru paint another time. But regardless, the big issue here is that the Maybach was supposed to come to me 6 weeks ago, but the wheel was damaged when the car was in transit to me by the press car company.
Are you kidding?
And so and then they had to order the wheel. It took them 6 weeks for the wheel to come. And then I damaged the wheel again on the last day I had it while I was parking it just for the press car people to be in the spot for them to pick up.
I mean, how noticeably?
Well, the black wheels, and so it's scratched silver.
Get a Sharpie.
That particular car, I think they'll just paint it. Like a wheel wasn't so like it wasn't any real. But I'm very damaging press cars is very annoying to me. Other journalists, I'm told, do it. And when I worked at Porsche, we heard some stories. Our PR team told us there was a journalist who rolled a Cayenne Turbo at Cayenne launch.
Oh man,
I'm stunned it was just one person.
I have never had any of that stuff happen. I've never been in a real accident, but scratch the wheel.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
What are the other cars you've scratched the wheels of?
A Ferrari GTC4 Lusso a long time ago, 10 years ago, probably. I can't remember. Little stuff. One time, Noodle jumped into a BMW I had and ruffled a leather center console cover. I didn't. It wasn't inviting him in. I had the door open and he jumped in and.
Yep, he's done that.
Little stuff.
He's jumped into my BMW as a matter of fact.
The press car companies assume this is going to happen. And the press cars are normally they find a new driver basically every week, and the goal is to drive them hard and drive them a lot. Mm-hmm. But I still feel terrible when I do it because I never do it.
I will say the number of times that it's been damaged in transit to you still outnumbers.
Absolutely. I frequently will get a call being like, we were going to deliver this today, and unfortunately we had an accident, scratched a wheel, it broke down.
Somebody else crashed it.
Yeah, that happens not infrequently. The McLaren thing that happened was I got a call. The McLaren something or other, I don't remember, I don't care, came to me for a day. I drove it to the office, filmed the video, drove it home. Other journalists, when they get a McLaren, they like spend a whole day, this is like their life for that day. They call their friends, they get them. Yeah. For me, it's I got other cars like this. I don't really care. And I'm not a big McLaren guy. Drove to the office, drove it home 7 miles, right? And I get a call. Yeah, the underside is scraped. I'm like, I'm be honest with you. I have these cars personally, and I drove that thing 7 miles. I didn't scrape the underside. You can blame whoever you want, but that wasn't me. And I don't know what happened. I just didn't accept it. I just was like, nope. Nope. It was not me. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. And the holidays are here. Time for you to look your best and win Best Groomed at a family dinner. You may have noticed my recent dabbling with facial hair. Well, like choosing a vehicle, there are many options out there for shaving products. I choose the Manscaped Chairman Pro package, the newest offering from Manscaped. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Whether you're after that daily, silky smooth finish or you prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, this has you covered. You have the skin-safe 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave when you're looking to go completely clean, and you have the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep a bit of that rugged look. Both heads are designed with skin-safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation, so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave, reducing redness or discomfort. Plus, one of my favorite quirks and features of the Chairman Pro is that it's waterproof. Yes, you can use it right in the shower. And also, it simplifies cleanup too. Just a quick rinse under the sink and you're all set. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that's as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CARS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code CARS at manscaped.com. Okay, Filippo, give us one of your talk cars.
Yeah. Can we talk more about the Valkyrie? I watched that video last night at home, sitting on the couch.
You want to talk about the Valkyrie?
He watched
I watched
you watched one of his videos?
He will watch my videos if it's like an electric minivan.
Yeah.
And this is the
only supercar one that I haven't watched that one yet. I saw the car here. This is the only one that I've watched in a long time. But like I was told ahead of time we were trying to figure out what to do with the camera for the end car and the audio.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we left it because it like unfocuses and refocuses based on vibration. How was that experience? You sent us and our friend group some photos while you were filming it. And it's very clear that I feel like the video didn't capture how insane that car is somehow.
People I thought would make fun of me, and maybe they did, I don't really read the comments, but people I thought would make fun of me for comparing it to a race car at the highest level. I think I said that. Or I did in the voiceover that we were going to put over the audio because you couldn't hear it. Like driving a Formula One car, because it's like, you've never driven, you wouldn't know. I mean, it can't be much crazier than that. We were going 12,000 RPM. Everything was shaking. You couldn't hear a thing. It was absolute visceral insanity in your mind. I got out of that car and I was like panting. I was like, it was crazy. Totally unbelievable experience. Really, 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 really insane. And we're driving that down Newport Coast there.
Yeah.
And a guy in like a C63 sees and is like flipping out. Imagine you're just cruising along.
I'd lose it. That's what you hope to see driving around Orange County.
No plates for just like 7 minutes, And this, like, yeah, like imagine.
We would have.
I would have freaked, totally.
Even he might have, as it turns out.
For sure.
I was surprised at the response. I'm still getting text messages with people. I can't believe that video. It's so amazing. It was cool. I didn't think that people were so excited about that car as they are.
Nobody knows. Like, they exist. They're in the ether, but like
nobody knows what it's like.
No.
Yeah.
Where does it? I have an important question. Consumer question. The top can be removed, right?
Yeah. We didn't do it.
Can it be stowed anywhere?
I can't imagine because there's no storage really.
I look to your videos for answers to questions such as this.
We were running up on daylight. I did everything. I'm sure you watched the quirk segment. The drive is cool, and that's what everybody's been talking about. The quirk segment, I did everything.
Yeah,
I'd like to see other people do some of
for where the roof panels go.
You know what I also did, which is really annoying. In order to film a bunch of different things, I had to climb in and out of that car truly probably 25 times. It was hell. You got to take off your shoes. You have to. People are making fun of me apparently in the Supercar Ron video for having my shoes off. There's no option.
Is a footwell that small?
Well, and also you're stepping on expensive stuff. And so, like, I'd rather do that with my socks than with shoes. So that's a thing. And yeah, it's really tight in that car. So, like, getting rid of anything you can to make yourself fit in. By the end, I was like thinking to myself, I hope I never see an Aston Martin Valkyrie.
And you know what? You won't. So you're good.
That's true. Man, you're just developing more, and look at you. You're going to turn into a race car fan. You're just developing more and more of an appreciation for what race car drivers do.
I don't know.
The GT time, getting in and out.
You love the P1 GTR.
I loved the P1 GTR. I don't know that I would say that I loved the Valkyrie. I would say that it was an experience like few others. I loved it for what it did. Like, if you wanted that, it delivers it better than any car I have ever been in. I don't know that I would want it personally.
I'm not saying you do. I'm saying you're developing an appreciation from these experiences.
Yeah.
Not that you have to have them. Not that you would want to drive a Formula One car, but you're developing.
It was definitely quite a thing to experience.
So cool.
And it definitely, like, it has this roots in Formula One because of how it was developed and who it was developed by.
Yes.
I'm sure Formula One cars are more insane, but like, this was it.
The big difference with the era of that car is exceptional, but yeah, a Formula One car is generates 6G around corners, which is imagine
you have to be a real pro.
I think on Newport Coast Boulevard you get the
absolutely, definitely pulling some G's.
I don't know if we left it in. I didn't watch the drive, but there was one point where I shifted as high as I could, and Supercar Ron's like, you shifted at 85. I mean, it's nothing. That's 2/3 of the way up the rev range. It'd be like shifting in Carrera GT at 4,400.
Now imagine doing that with a manual in a car called the T.50.
I don't know that you want to, but I think we talked enough about the T.50 last week.
That's an interesting
analogy. A more refined experience, nonetheless.
Anyway,
refined is a word of reason for anything Valkyrie related.
The T50 is a refined experience.
Would refinement have made it better?
The T50,
the Valkyrie,
for what a car he actually wants to enjoy. Yes,
that's an interesting point. I mean, the Valkyrie, one of its benefits is that it is so
insane,
race car like, and that's one of the things I liked about P1 GTR and BAC Mono is that even though I'm not into those cars, if I had lots of money, I'd probably have a P1 GTR because just that it was just so unrefined that the character of that was cool.
Have you done a Vulcan?
No.
Interesting.
No, but I mean,
I think that's just much harder to drive. We had one at the exotic car dealership I worked at, and watching one of the guys who had driven race cars like move it around is hilarious. He stalled it like 25 times. Like it is like because it's an X-Track gearbox. You hear it go in the gear, and it just wants to go.
Yeah, the Valkyrie, for all of its insanity, is actually a car you can use. Like it has a regular transmission to the extent that it just you put it in drive and it goes. And like it has a rear view mirror camera and it has like a radio. Like it's a car that is, as far as crazy stuff goes, it's like usable crazy stuff.
Right. And a Valkyrie is a dedicated like track car.
It really is.
Some made for roadies, but yeah.
You mean the Vulcan?
A Vulcan, Vulcan is.
Yeah. I think they were all track cars. Yeah. Maybe there were some.
I think that they couldn't be used at a lot of tracks because they exceed the noise limit because it is unbelievable how loud that car is. But anyway, a really cool experience and a great video.
I'm thrilled at the response. I thought it was really cool. It was interesting to see that because I don't do a lot of hypercar videos anymore because a lot of I've done them all, And now it's a lot of EVs and stuff. And some of those get really get big views, the ID Buzz.
The Pininfarina did well from like a view perspective. People wanted to see it. But
you never get, when you do the ID Buzz and the Rivian R2, it's a lot of interested consumers, and it's a lot of, people who are in the market or just want to see it's cool. To see the response to like a holy crap, this is insane video is kind of, that's kind of.
I think that no other video of yours has shown quite how insane it is. Like,
which is good, because it's actually hard to describe. I really think for that car, it's like hard to put into words. No one else has ever had the experience of driving car shifts at 12,000. So like, I can't explain it.
No.
I've tried for years to explain why the Countach is so special, and I think it still falls on deaf ears a lot of the time because it's hard to explain.
Right.
But that video kind of did a good job of illustrating. Yeah. All right, Kennan, tell us about your, we're not going to listen to, I won't accept anything about you at $500 a bar potentially buying cars.
Oh,
we're not
come on, no. So the car is sitting there and we can see it. You are not have no permission to talk about. It's on our list of things to talk about. He added, and that is insane.
I said nothing. But let's talk about the Cayenne Turbo and your desire to have one.
Yeah, so I do really want a daily, and I'm trying to decide what to get because I'm very precious about my car, as you can imagine. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, a Cayenne Turbo seems like the right answer. But I had been thinking...
Was this based... Did you come to this conclusion because of our...
Oh, yes. And just like driving around the city and going through dips and parking it and looking back at it, like turning around, it's like, man, it still looks like a nice car.
You can now get a Cayenne base for $10,000. Or an SE hybrid for 12.
The niceties of the Turbo.
Or an SE hybrid with the options for 13.
I will say an S, even the S from that era had 400 horsepower. Pretty stout.
Pretty solid, yes.
V8.
So
maybe, everything you described so far, just there's some suspension travel and it looks like a Cayenne.
Every Cayenne. One drives well. Like the Cayenne Turbo drives great. Like I really put around some corners at speed and it is lovely. It drives very nicely.
Yep.
But my point is, like, would it be better for me to consider leasing a daily that, like, just I don't have to worry about maintenance? That's the big fear with the Cayenne Turbo. They are reliable cars, but consumables are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
It's like
the problem
something
is,
that weighs
I don't
my
think
head
you could ever lease anything that's anywhere near as cool as the Cayenne Turbo for what the Cayenne Turbo will cost you to own. So let's say the Cayenne Turbo costs, even being pretty liberal with it, like $4,000 a year in repairs and maintenance. I can't imagine it would be that much.
I don't think
if you get a nice one.
Yeah.
Maybe $5,000. I don't know. $15,000
a year will round a bunch is a little bit over $300.
I think that's more than enough.
That's the thing. What $300 a month doesn't
base
get you
i4, an EV6, a Nissan Aria.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm running into. It's like, and to be honest with you, it's like I've considered. It's like, well, do I just want kind of a normalish car to do? And the answer is no. I'm a car enthusiast, and like I couldn't be in anything boring. No. It has to be something that like I am excited about, even if it's a car I don't care as much about in terms of how I'm precious with it. If I just has to be engaging, exciting.
I think you would be bored if you went out and leased an Aria for $300 a month. Yeah, you'd save money on not using your M5 as much and save fuel and all that, but like at what personal cost?
Right. And EVs don't fit into my life because I don't have a place to charge it at where I live.
No place to charge. So. Don't really need the space. Like, don't really need like.
It's nice for the emissions immediately driving around like where we live, like in kind of in the city. It's like it's a little bit nice, and the silence and serenity of an EV is appealing when you have something a little bit more visceral.
Yeah.
Not that car is
it would definitely
visceral,
fit into your lifestyle, and there are positives like you wouldn't have to pay for fuel. But Cayenne Turbo is a Cayenne Turbo.
I know. It gets the same fuel economy that that does, like around town, which is
not if you drive it like Doug does, and it's fuel economy challenge.
It was impressive. I thought about that.
Something to consider.
Of course, like I don't really have to use.
By that metric, just buy a Corvette.
Yeah. So I think the hunt for a Cayenne Turbo is like will commence shortly. But
why not a Macan?
You know, because other than he would make fun of me for it a lot, and I do like the Macan. I love the way they look.
I would make fun of you, but Macan Turbo is pretty damn good. It's very athletic, and Macan Turbo has PDK, whereas Cayenne always had Tiptronic.
Always had tip, for towing reasons, is my understanding. But I think the reason not Macan. I mean, my friend Nick had one and had just tremendous issues, which is I know maybe not as common, but the Cayenne, the way I view it is like the Cayenne is developed a little bit more as a solid platform because it had to be used for Bentley, had to be used for Lamborghini, it had to be used for a number of other things, and Macan less so. And I think it's just a less expensive. They put a little bit less R&D into it, maybe, and that's why there are issues.
Just based on personal information, those Cayenne Turbos do seem to be pretty reliable.
They seem to be
get one of those
solid.
70,000 miles. You get like a 12 or 13, 70,000 miles. I think you drive that car for a long time.
And that's probably a 25 car.
And
that's a 25 car? No.
30 for 12, 13 to early.
Oh, he's out of his mind. He's crazy.
I have looked for one with reasonable mileage in a color that isn't black, because so many of them are
gray looks nice.
I kind of want that exact spec.
Well, it's going to be maybe one by somebody.
140,000 miles. It starts to be like, well, all right, I'd like to get one with less miles than that. Just because, again, like maintenance costs are what are on my mind because like I put the money into the car. I want to have like perfect in terms of maintenance. And like, I kind of would like to not be doing that with the next one. So
I'm interested. I would love it. I also think you can get in and out of it no problem without losing money.
Or not a ton of money. Yeah, I don't think so.
But there's so many cool cars for 25 grand.
Yeah, but
not for what I want.
For a daily that can do everything, he can off-road it. He can luxury it. He can drive it fast.
It is everything.
He can enjoy it. Like when you look at a Cayenne Turbo, when I look at one, when I see one on the street, I'm always like, even a 2011 or 12, I'm still like, that is a cool car.
I totally agree. And I was just
even
driving that one around, listen to watercolors, like driving at night. Yeah. Man,
some would wonder if you even need an E39 M5.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's do a quick market report brought to you by Cars and Bids. Actually, it's brought to you by the Cars and Bids app. The Cars and Bids app.
I think just by Cars and Bids now.
Just like Cars and Bids, but an app form.
By the way, we have 700 something 5-star reviews. People are loving the app.
We only have 700 5-star reviews, folks. We need to get it up to 800. I don't know what's good or what's bad. Okay.
The app is good.
I'll tell you what's the app is good. That's good.
Go download it.
Thank you.
Okay, there's not much to discuss in market report because I really want to get to questions because I love the question segment. Oh my God, what is this Hellcat thing we have? We got a Hellcat jailbreak convertible live on the site. Filippo, if you don't buy this,
so cool.
I'll be mad at you. Where is it? What Midwestern state?
707 horsepower and it's Indiana.
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay. So cool. There's only one market report thing I want to talk about.
Okay, I'll do one of mine and you do one of yours.
Okay.
Lotus Evora. Pull it up.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about the Evora because on the subject of cars that are getting cheaper, which has been a topic we've talked about a lot lately, and it's done well on these pod shorts that we've been doing. Evora is getting cheaper, but I bet it's flooring.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that a 2010 with 23,000 miles and a manual gets too much cheaper than 36. And then you start to realize the Evora has the famous Elise thing. Like the Elise, you could buy one for 30, sell one for 30. Now it's maybe 35. Evora is the same deal. Toyota powertrain's still stout, and they're getting to that point where they're probably floored, and you can buy and sell and get out of it for the same number. And because they're reliable, you probably don't have to put much money into it. And these cars have always kind of been used car market bargains. And I think that at this price, 35, 36, I am guessing that this is about where they stay. And then they become real used car market bargains when you don't even have to factor in depreciation or much maintenance or repair.
The engine may be reliable, but I'm concerned about the other aspects of the car that are not engine related. The English in their electronics are not well known for being complementary.
Okay, the engine makes the car go. All the other stuff is just along for the ride. So, like, what do you tell me? The door is going to fall off? Nah.
No, but I mean, the electronic system fails and strands you somewhere. It's like, I mean, that's a realistic concern with a Lotus.
I don't know.
You know what it stands for? Lots of trouble, usually serious.
Lots of tremendous
usable
supercar.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. Lots of tremendous usable supercar.
No, you might be right. However, they do get miles. We sell them with miles.
That is true.
Sometimes.
That is sometimes.
People use them. People drive them.
Some might have miles.
14,000.
Well, that's a 3-year-old car. Sort by highest miles.
Some of them do get miles.
Oh, good point.
88,000 miles on this
Look
one.
at it in yellow.
I've never heard of anybody. I've had buddies who've had Evoras and Elises. Never heard of anybody who had electrical issues. The Elise has that body problem where the whole car is the body, and if you like touch it and breathe on it, you got to replace.
You would scratch it and then have to replace the body.
I did. I ran into a tree branch, and they told me I had to replace the entire clamshell, which I did not. No, and the tree branch was like the size of like your face.
That's a pretty big tree branch.
No, dude, your face is little. Your face is little.
One of our editors, Nick, is heavily considering an Evora to replace his 996. And it's an appealing car.
It's an appealing car. I think they're really, really cool. I think they're floored in value. I think they look really nice.
This yellow, just that.
You know what I like? Go back. There's that silver one in the corner down here. That one looks
on silver wheels. Yeah, that looks really great.
That one looks really nice. Can I have one of those?
You know, it's a shame that only 13 years after this came out, we're like, the Evora is pretty good. Because when it came out, it was like, this is expensive, and who wants that getting a lease?
That's Lotus's problem. These are better used cars than they are new cars. Like, nobody wants to spend 90 plus Camry engine, and all the things that were bad about it as a new car kind of start to become appealing as a used car. It's got a Camry engine, so 4 seats. Oh, that's okay.
So maybe Emira one day also all just live at 30.
No, I think Emira will become desirable as it ages. It's just a hard sell at 90 plus for a lot of people. I actually think it's pretty desirable.
I think it's a very desirable car, personally.
I thought that about Evora too, honestly. But it's even more appealing here, where it's 30 to 40 grand and probably Florida value.
If only Filippo would get a car, you could get one of these. I've said this before.
Talk about it.
And you know what the hard part about it is that Filippo's hung up on the purchase price, and I've begged him to understand that it's about total cost of ownership. He could buy and sell the car, get out of it in a year, spend no money, and he's like, no, it's too expensive. And so instead, he's going to get something dumb that loses value.
I'm probably not getting.
I wish we had a tag to look at repeat offenders cars we've had multiple times on Cars and Biz to show him. Like, it's sold for this and it's sold for this.
Well, actually, you know what you can do? Click on recently ended. This hit me yesterday. This reason it came up. We sold this 32,000 miles to 41 to 36,000 to 20,000 miles. Go to the very bottom. The very first Evoras we sold, like this one, $34,000. Yeah. Like they've lost a little value, but like not significant value. And it's clear that they're not going to really be losing much more. Yep. Obviously, the ones that sold for 86 were newer cars at the time. Whatever. But now they're getting cheaper, and so you can, or they're getting older. Right. You can see what's going on.
2 years ago, 39.9.
Exactly.
When they were different models.
These are Florida, and they're cool. If you want to get a Cayman, but you've already had a Cayman, this is the kind of car to get. Yep. What's your market?
Can you go to Lucid Air Sapphire, please?
Yeah, let's talk Sapphire.
All right. We sold a Lucid Air Sapphire for 200 grand. Stickers, 250.
Stickers, 250.
We did a bunch of, there are no public Sapphire results before this one. Mm-hmm. So we did a bunch of research, and like our team came up with because we went too deep in this, with a formula of like how much do other Lucid models depreciate, which is a lot. So that put the value of this after a year and whatever miles it has at like 160. This is exciting to me because it shows that the super high performance ones are still getting enough recognition that they're not following that same depreciation curve.
Taycans are. I was shocked by this.
This is better.
I was shocked by this.
Yeah.
Also, it has miles, 3,000 something.
I will say,
3,300.
I will say this is a more special car than a Taycan Turbo or Turbo S. Those are very available. I have still not seen a Lucid Air Sapphire on the road.
Only when you had it here to review.
And I see Lucid Airs pretty commonly.
Yeah, I see them every day. Yeah, truly.
But Sapphire is
so
really
cool.
special.
I legitimately think it's one of the coolest ones. The Model S Plaid held value for a little bit, and then kind of depreciated. This has, I think, more that's special about it than based on this result is helping.
This is a true super sports car. Everybody who super performance sedan, sport, luxury sport. Everybody who reviewed it was very positive, including me. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely amazing to drive and use. I feel that way about all the Lucid Airs, but the Sapphire is really cool. Production is somewhat limited. So
now, I mean, the person did lose $1,600 per mile they drove, but it's a different issue.
But that's kind of true of all $250,000. I mean, S-Class is everything in that segment.
Yeah.
The Sapphire definitely did hold value better than a regular Lucid.
Better than anybody expected, and we're thrilled to see it.
Yeah. Okay. It's time for questions. Now, remember, you too can ask us a question. You too. If Bono asks a question,
you two can ask any questions they want.
If Bono wants to text Doug directly, we'll put his phone number up on the screen.
Bono had a Quattroporte like Nick has.
Oh, in period. That's so cool.
Yeah, well, I was reading an interview where he talked about it. And he said one of the things he liked about it is his four-door car, and they named it the four-door. This is only the Italians.
We should do a video talking about like musicians' cars, like famous people.
Eric Clapton and the Ferrari.
Well, I was thinking Rod Stewart and all of his Ferraris. Nick Mason.
Great. Can I not be in this video? Thank you.
Nick's got great cars.
Okay. So anyway, questions. You can ask us questions. You click on carsandbids.com, click on it. You go to the community tab, and then there will be a post there saying, hey, ask us questions. This was the special holiday questions, which we're going to have next week.
Yeah.
Because next week, we're not doing like a news podcast. We're recording it early, and we're just going to do questions, which we've already taken. So anyway, we're going to do this week's questions now. So let's go. Yeah. First question is from Rodney. This is a question we get with sort of like it with some frequency, but I want to cover it again. Of all the auctions on Cars and Bids over the years that have been completed, what were the craziest buyers and sellers that you've had to deal with, and what ended up happening with those auctions? There's never anything like too crazy. One dude sued us in small claims court. Remember that?
I do.
And we defended it. And the judge was like, you're an insane person. Get out.
The guy wanted the buyer to send him Amazon gift cards. It was something truly insane. And we were like, no, we're not part of this.
But that was probably one of them. But like, nothing's ever been like insane. Has anything ever been?
There's been a lot of insane people.
Yeah.
Because humans, turns out, like Kennan, are insane.
Right.
But nothing that's like coming immediately to mind.
My Land Cruiser too. But I can't think of any really insane situations that have at least come to my attention. You've probably seen them, but
I've seen a lot, but none that are like story worthy.
None that are crazy.
Yeah.
It's usually like, okay, this isn't, I'm crazy and here's what I might take. And the seller's crazy and the buyer's crazy. And we got to figure
I remember early on some of the buyer's remorse, which was some of my favorite, where someone would say, I left my laptop open at Starbucks and somebody entered a bid. It's like, all right. Your wife found out about the car. She's not happy and you're walking it back.
There was a dude that bid on and bought a Focus RS. And then he comes to us a couple weeks later and said, I have a lot of back issues. And I thought that this car would be perfect for me based on all the forums. And it turns out that I can't drive it. Can I list it back on Cars and Bids? Which isn't that crazy. I don't remember. This is
we do have people turn around cars quick.
But it's like my answer would have been the Focus RS is still for sale. Go to your Ford dealer before you bid, maybe. Find out if it's a car for you before you spend $50,000. That is always something
that really annoys us. We do get people sometimes being like, this car had this or that, or sometimes it's stuff that was disclosed.
I know. It's like,
and then but they see it the last day of the auction. They're like, I got a bid. Then they bid. And they're like, it has this scratch. And it's like, I can see the scratch in all the pictures.
Yep. Always do your due diligence.
So the reason the auction runs for a week is not because we think bids will be coming in for a week. The actual auction runs for 5 minutes. Okay, let's be clear. Yeah. The week is so that you can call the dude, you can send a buddy in Connecticut to go look at the car, you can have a PPI done, you can get your financing in order, all that stuff.
Nothing. I wish there was something that came to mind as like a really great story, but it's just normal people dealing with transactions.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's a lot of normal people dealing with transactions and the pros and cons that come.
And as I tell a lot of people, then we can move on from this. For a lot of folks, most expensive purchase you'll ever make is your house.
Yep.
Probably. Second most expensive is probably a car. Like second most expensive category is probably a car. It's scary for people. And so you don't always get the best of humans, but then we have a team that's there literally to walk you through how to do it.
Yep.
And then it usually works out.
We have really good support. Good support staff.
Their whole purpose is to share all the experience we've gained over almost 25,000 auctions with people to maximize their value for cars.
And they do it well. Legitimately well.
Truly.
Okay, next question comes from I Am Him. Filippo, did you get run over by a Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2? Oh.
For those of you who can't see his shirt, he does look like he has a tire track across the sweater.
I firmly believe that this sweater is Christmassy.
Well, it's almost Christmassy in the sense that he got run over. The sweater got run over by a tire around Christmas time.
Do you think that Santa's sleigh has Michelin Pilot Sport 2s?
Do you think that's Santa's sleigh? That looks like you got run over by a tire.
Well, the question is, does the sleigh have a
wide
tires?
one?
No, it doesn't have tires.
What do you think it was? It was pretty wide.
It's a wide tire.
Santa
and
a Mercy?
Saying Pilot Sports, like a Carrera GT rear tire.
Does look like
we'll compare.
Not anytime soon.
No.
Okay, next question actually from I Am Him. Question for Doug. If you could make Kennan and Filippo buy a car, what would you make them buy and why?
If only Doug had that kind of influence.
I would make Filippo just like make a decision, like step up and do the job.
But what? What would I buy?
I'd make Kennan buy an E60 M5.
Yeah.
Really feel it.
Why do you hate me?
That's punishment. I would make you get like something that I want you to get. Like I'd make you spend some money. Like realize what it's like to write a check.
Diablo.
Oh God. I've been trying to convince my friends here in San Diego to get a vintage Lambo for like 2 years.
Every day.
And no one will.
It's a really expensive, unreliable.
Yeah, but Nick's got a Mercy. It's not like I'm asking him to jump off a bridge. He's 2 years away from what I'm trying to get him to do.
Maybe he likes the Mercy,
I know, but if he had a Diablo, he'd have a Diablo.
I understand. You've got a Countach. That's enough for us.
I need someone to share this with me. I want someone to share this experience with me. And remember, Joe Sacchi, I don't know any other Countach people. Like I said on the Theropod, I don't know anybody else.
Right, you one up all of us by too much by having a Countach at all. So you got to instead one up somebody that gets.
Do you ever think
but the problem is I don't want to be friends with any of those people. I hate all the other people who are rich.
I was gonna say, do you sure you want to know Countach people?
No, I don't want anything to do with them. Okay, next question. Question for Porsche 32. Question for Kennan. Matt Farah recently mentioned writing a new article for Road and Track about how the CT5V Blackwing has been chasing the ghost of the E39 M5 when BMW themselves and everyone else is not. Will you acknowledge the CT5V Blackwing is the true God's Chariot and the spiritual successor to your E39 M5? If not, Doug, can you set up with Kennan with a demo car for a week to change his mind?
Well,
it happened already.
So I've driven the CT5V,
which was a demo car that I had, as I recall.
Absolutely loved it. Manual one. It was blue. It was phenomenal. Loved the car. I've never seen a fuel gauge physically move while I'm driving it. It is unbelievable. You have real range anxiety driving a gasoline powered car, which is crazy. Yeah, but so your thoughts on whether it's God's Chariot? It's not as well rounded of a car as that is because it just doesn't. It gets like legitimately 6 miles to the gallon,
and it's also brutally fast in a way that the M5 is maybe a little bit more balanced.
Second and third in that car are really fun to use for acceleration. That's where it's in the M5, and in the Cadillac there too. The difference is the speed is multiplied tremendously. So it is a lot less usable in that regard. But I have to admit, is one of my favorite cars I've ever driven. I loved it. I would love to have one in addition to that car, which I know is very redundant, but I'd have like the best and where it all ended in the end. Yeah. And I can't believe that Cadillac of all manufacturers makes that.
And
so
in
cool.
the spirit of the question, I think we both agree that yes, it is the car
it's an empirical
torch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes like that car, you could say maybe the Audi B7 RS4 is very similar. Then came the Chevy SS, which a lot of people, love.
G8. I mean, there were a lot for a while. There were a few.
There were a lot of V8,
but it's kind of come to this.
This is it's the fact that that's a car that's currently on sale is outrageous,
and that it's actually a great car. Like the G8,
great car.
The G8. Though it was great, there were concessions made. It was quite big. The interior was not great. Pontiac wasn't our brand.
Same thing with the SS. Same thing with the SS. The interior, like all
SS
the buttons,
was better. The interior was a little better,
but the CT5V Blackwing
However,
is
the CT5V Blackwing is like the E395 in the sense that it is like the ultimate car that you really want, and it has the manual, the rear-wheel drive.
I'd actually argue, and it's even more subtle. It says Blackwing in 2 places, and there are little tags on the seats.
Yeah.
That's it. You have to really know.
Of course, you also know because you don't see any actual CT5s around. So
that's true. In San Diego,
I never see any of them.
But
I just looked for you. You were talking about leasing a car. Based on what I could see in a 30-second search, Coastal Blue Metallic manual, lease for only $1,700 a month. Something to consider.
I do want to see what they do in terms of. I mean, they're holding their value relatively strong. They really hold, but there's nothing else like it. Like
also none ever for sale.
No,
we've hosted surprisingly few.
Yeah,
right. Next question from Q Sal. Hey Doug, hypothetically speaking, if the Ford GT/Carrera GT value started to drastically plummet, would you sell the car to save yourself from losing money, or do you keep it for the pure passion of what it is and what it offers? It's a good question. It's hard to imagine a scenario in which they would drastically start to plummet in value, so it's hard to really put myself in the mindset of that. But I love the cars, and I don't really need the cash, so I would probably keep them. Now, in the scenario you're talking about, maybe the whole world is dropped. Maybe it's like 08 again or 1927.
What would you buy? It's like 08 again.
Well, maybe nothing if I'm selling everything, panic selling everything. But I really love the cars, and they're what I want. And it's hard to imagine. I kind of wish the Carrera GT was cheaper because it would make it easier to use.
Same.
But even though I bought it,
you've also bought carefully. So even in a world where something plummets, there is some intrinsic value to a car like that based on how many they built, the specialness of it.
I agree with that. The new Countach intrinsic value is low. A Carrera GT V10 manual, fastest car around Nurburgring in the whole world ever.
Close enough.
That's a car that's going to always be desired.
A couple seconds from being true.
And some of the stories I hear from the guys who did make those purchases 20 years ago of the F40s for $200,000 is that kind of thing. They bought cars that were special, that they loved, that they knew they would love, and it worked out, but also they had something that they loved. And surely the stock market would have done better, et cetera, but they had this thing that they loved. And I think that's how you make the decision. And that's how I've made my decisions. The 3 sports cars that I have, I truly love them. And it would be sad if they lost value, but not as sad as if I lost them.
Exactly. At the end of the day, and that's what upset me for a while when so many investment people are buying cars and then not using them as commodities. It's a horrible investment, generally speaking. You can make way more money in other things. The difference is if you're passionate about these, the goal should be to maybe not lose a ton of money on it. Even if you do
make money, it's a great benefit, and some of them do. I think Carrera GT is not in a position where it's going to rise in value significantly for a long time. It had a big jump. I do not think those cars are going anywhere for a while.
Made a lot of them.
They made 1270s.
That's a lot.
There's more at 40s. There's more Daytonas.
Only by 100, but yeah.
There's more Countachs. I don't think the production number is the problem. It's pretty rare, especially compared to more modern supercars where production runs have now gotten considerably
they're out of control
now. But I think the problem is that it had a big run up, and there's the people who have them.
You've already made the appreciate. The appreciate already have it. But
okay, next question. Final question.
Ooh,
final question. This is another question for Kennan. Luke 26. Question for Kennan. They're all for Kennan, even the one that we're not getting to. Question for Kennan is great.
What for Filippo?
There's not any questions for Filippo.
That's really sad. Because no, it's really not.
Folks, if you got questions about electric vehicles or
the
great
car
leases,
market,
compact cars,
I actually thought about coming to you. That's why I wanted to ask today about the lease
I will
thing,
look for you. Don't you worry.
Question for Kennan. As a fellow Northeast Ohioan, are there any spots that you know of to spot cool cars. Dealership shows it.
I've been kind of putting this together because I'm going to post it on Instagram soon. But like I was going back through. I'm from Hudson, Ohio, which is a small town between Cleveland and Akron. And in period, when I was growing up there, we had the craziest cars. I mean, nuts. We had there's a Carrera GT was bought new in my hometown. I have pictures of it at the gas station. I'd see Spiker C8, Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera, 997.1 GT3 RS in green. Like there were just, and this was a regular thing. You'd bike to downtown Hudson. There would be just crazy cars all the time. Every single Friday in the summer, you knew.
Was this over at Aladdin's?
There is an Aladdin's, and I have pictures.
Like Hudson's? Like where would you see the car? Like at Flipside?
The guy at the Carrera GT always filled up at BP, and that's because he went in to buy cigarettes there, and he would leave, and like that.
That poor Carrera GT.
I don't think he smoked in it.
I
think
not.
I think he still has the car. Also,
you're talking about the BP at Main Street there at Ravenna.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Right off. Right off.
By the Rosewood Grill, but by yours truly.
Yes, by yours truly. Recently revamped. Nice rooftop. I go back to Hudson with some regularity, but my answer for him, not anymore. It has changed. Like now they're just like Audi S cars. The places I would go, Chagrin Falls is really. It's a very wealthy area, and every time I go there, I see nice cars. Even now, that has not changed.
Nice cars like what? People in Chagrin Falls.
BMW Z8. I've seen SLS Black Series. I've seen a lot of really interesting cars. But the thing you should do, in all honesty, I'll send them. Is like. Go to Marshall Goldman. Like the Marshall Goldman, it has just an incredible inventory. But it's like going to a car show. Like truly, just be very polite. Don't touch anything. Obviously, be very nice. But that's the place to go. I mean, that's the place to go. But if you want to see them in the wild, I would say Chagrin Falls is your best bet.
Where's the Triple F collection?
They're in Columbus. That's a different thing.
Is there like a Cars and Coffee that do we know them? Is there a Cars and Coffee that they go to?
I've met them. They hold a big event every year, I think in June usually. And they've had some wild stuff. They had some stuff from Mouse Motors collection in Chicago. They have several McLaren F1s. They sent their stuff there. That is a wild show to go to, I have to say.
For being as into cars as I am, not my world.
Yeah, I understand.
We know.
For you, Filippo, the local Toyota dealership would be enough, I think. But it is.
By the way, did you see all the comments when you were naming Toyota SUVs? You forgot the lowercase b, uppercase Z, 4 uppercase
I don't
X?
Consider that an SUV.
They do.
Gotta be honest.
Filippo doesn't consider it. But that's my answer.
There is Kennan's top tips on car spotting in Northeast Ohio, in the greater Cuyahoga County area. I don't actually know.
It's Summit, technically. But yeah, same,
all right, that's our podcast. It was the finest one we've ever done. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, next week is our special Christmas episode where we're primarily just doing questions, plus we have a special guest. Let's do it. I don't know what that means. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.